Hey guys, how you doing? Welcome to the video. Welcome to my garage. In this video, what we're going to be doing is taking the fiberglass roof that I just made off of the Mauler and setting it on the Wratchet chassis. So if you've been watching my other videos, you're aware that I have recently made a fiberglass roof based off of the Mauler roof. So it's an exact replica of a Volkswagen Bug roof. And I want to take that roof and I want to set it on the Wratchet chassis. The Wratchet chassis was originally set up as a flat roof, and since I've been building this, I haven't really fallen in love with the flat roof design, and I wasn't real happy with the way I had kind of started setting up the windshield. So I decided what I really wanted to try and do was make it look like a Volkswagen Bug body, but I still want it to be a full tube chassis like it is. So I decided to try and make these fiberglass panels that will just bolt to the exterior of the Wratchet chassis, just like you would see on a trophy truck or something. I think that'll be really cool because it'll give me all the structural strength that I wanted out of a tube chassis, but it'll give me the look of a kind of like a vintage Volkswagen Bug. So the first thing that I need to do that is I need to cut off these pieces for the flat roof. So I'm just going to run around with my grinder. Nothing up here is permanently welded, it's all tacked. So I'm just going to run around with the cutting wheel and I'm going to lop off those tacks and just take these roof pieces off one by one until I'm down to just the base chassis. Okay, now we're gonna fast forward a little bit, but you can see here, now I've got the Wratchet chassis and he's got the roof is all taken off. I even pulled this area off back here because I was kind of realizing as I was setting up the transaxle that I thought some of these supports were gonna run interference with some of the shock absorbers. And this piece I wanna run a little bit closer to the body lines. So while I was taking all the roof off, I took off the two pieces I had back there as well. So now I'm really got a clean slate that I can start with to kind of figure out how I want to make this cage around the roof. And you'll notice in those clips, I did all the grinding. After I ground all the pieces off, then I went around with my flap disc and kind of cleaned everything up just because I wanted as few jagged edges as possible around here. And then after I did that, I actually got the vacuum cleaner out and did a pretty good job of vacuuming up. I'm not saying this is like a surgical center, but I have to tell you, I hate grinding because it makes such a mess, and I like to keep this place as clean as possible. You can see right now as I'm walking around here, I'm just, in my bare feet, and I don't know, I like to be comfortable out here, and I try to keep it as clean as possible. So either way, so what I'm doing now, you can see I've already got one of these in place. I'm gonna make a little wooden structure that will hold the roof exactly where it would be if this chassis was the Mauler chassis. And I guess in doing that, the first thing you need to realize is the Wratchet chassis was completely designed off of the Mauler chassis, and the Mauler chassis is basically a Volkswagen Bug chassis, or at least a Volkswagen Bug layout with dimensions. So if you look at like the line up the door here and the line up the door here, these 2 points are exactly the same as these 2 points on the Wratchet chassis. So this is exactly where the front of the door would be. And then this, if you go from this point here, this intersection, down to where this angle is, if you draw a straight line through there, that is exactly where the door would end on a Volkswagen Bug chassis. And then the layout of the Wratchet frame, like the outside dimensions, if you went from this corner up here and the footwell, is the exact same outside dimensions of the Wratchet chassis, which is, I'm sorry, of the Mahler chassis, which is the same outside dimensions as a Volkswagen Bug pan. The only difference is on the Wratchet chassis, the footwell area here, I pulled these out a little bit to give you a little bit more room for your feet and your pedals. So being that these dimensions, this and this, is the same as the door on a Volkswagen Bug, then I can take dimensions off of the Mahler chassis. I can take, you know, how far forward and back, and then I can take elevations from the floor of the Mahler chassis to the top of the roof, which is what this is. And I can just duplicate these over at the Wratchet chassis here. And then once I have those all set up, I'll have three. I'm going to do one in the front here. This is my middle one. And I'll have one somewhere around here in the back by the back window. Then I'll be able to take the fiberglass roof here, and I'm just going to pick it up and I'm going to set it down on those pieces of wood, and those will hold it right where it would be if it was a completely bone stock Bug body. And then at that point, I'm going to look at a couple things, and I might, you know, maybe I'll move it forward or back a couple inches, up or down. But what I want to do right now is just set it in the stock location, and then set my chair up in there and see how everything feels, and then decide if I want to make any modifications from there. So what I did to get started is I made a template here. This is my middle piece. I made a template of the roof line. So if we go up here into Mahler, and this is my middle piece. So if you take this up to the roof, you'll see that that has the exact contour of the roof line. So then I took this piece and I transferred it to 1/8 inch press board so that it would be a little bit stronger right here. And then I measured from the roof to the bottom of the floor in the Mahler chassis, and then I just took a 2x4 here, screwed this to the 2x4, set it at the proper elevation, and if you look, it's right in line with what would be the back of the door, which is exactly where I measured it on the Mahler chassis. And then I clamped everything in place. And then I'll do that to the front and the rear, and then once I have the roof sitting up here, if I want to make adjustments, I can just loosen those clamps and just slide it up or down depending on what I want to do. So that's what I'm in the middle of doing right now. I'm working on the front one, and then I'll switch to do the back one, and then I'll show you guys when that's ready and we can actually set the roof up there and see how it looks. So there we have it. It's really hard to visualize at this point. It helped a lot when I put the one-piece front end on, because before I had the one-piece front end on, when I put the roof up there, the roof seemed really, really small. But once I put the front end on, the roof kind of ties in with the curvature of the one-piece front end at that point. Still seems pretty small up here, but I need to throw the seat in there and actually sit in there and see what I think. And I was already thinking about possibly pushing the leading edge of the roof up an inch, maybe inch and a half, just because I know on Mauler, visibility out the front is kind of restricted because a Volkswagen Bug windshield is pretty small, and when you push the driving seat back a little bit, it gets even smaller. So I was already thinking about opening that up a little bit. I probably will, but I need to think about that. And this now, with nothing down here is permanent yet, but where the transaxle is ending up, you can see the mating surface where the engine is going to bolt to is right about in line with the edge of the end of the roof. And if we come over here to Mauler, if you look in there, you can see that the Ecotec is actually shoved back in there some, and the mounting surface is right there. It's 5.5 inches further back, which completely makes sense because when I was laying out the location of the transaxle in Wratchet here, it did get pushed 5.5 inches. If you're interested, those are the wheelbases that I'm coming up with for Mauler and Wratchet. And Wratchet right now is 5.5 inches longer in the rear because the transaxle itself is so much longer because it's larger and it's a 5-speed. So that caused me to push it back 5.5 inches. I knew I was going to push it back some just because Wratchet's a little bit larger, but I wasn't sure it was going to go 5.5 inches, but it is because I don't want to disturb this piece. This is a pretty structural tube right there, and at 5.5 inches, it nestles right in behind that tube. So that's, with this setup, the whole Ecotec would be sticking out behind here, which it probably is. I'll try to tie that in, and I might lower this a little bit. I might set it up so that the front comes up a little bit and the back comes down a little bit. I'm talking an inch or two. And I don't know. I'm not going to do anything with it right now. I just got it up here. I need to leave it up here for a while and just let it process. Put the seat in there, sit in there, see what I think. And then before I do any roll cage stuff, I'm going to make a windshield out of cardboard. I'm going to make the whole thing out of cardboard so that I can get a real good idea of what I want for a windshield. And then I'll also leave that in there for a while, see what I think, let it all kind of settle in. And then if I like it, then I'll make the windshield out of steel. And then of course I'll build all the roll cage. And I also, when I do the roll cage and all that, I do actually want an Ecotec sitting back here so that I can tie all of this in with the proper clearances and everything for the Ecotec. So I've got a little bit of work to do before I actually build the cage for this, but now that I have it sitting in position, I can start getting a better idea of what I'm going to do with this. And I got to say, so far it's pretty cool. So that's it for this video, guys. I was so excited that I actually had the fiberglass roof at this point. I wanted to really move along quickly and get all the metal cut out of the Wratchet chassis here so that I could put the fiberglass top up there and just see how it looks, how it feels, and before I start actually welding anything up, just kind of let it process in my brain and come up with some ideas and then move forward from there. So hopefully these videos are helping you guys with whatever you're working on, and hopefully I see you on the next video. Take care.